Hello, Pauper fans. This is Mathonical, and you are joining me for round 3 of the Pauper Challenge from October the 29th. Our opening hand is a little on the clunky side, having this many bounce lands, tap lands. Ash Barrens means we can get an untapped land to bounce if we need to go a little faster. But the Crossroads, which was a fairly new addition to this list, I put it in here just for situations like this. We would like to gain additional life off of all of our bounce lands. So because of that, I do feel like this is a reasonable keep. We also have our combo of Guardian plus Pestilence, where we can infinitely board wipe, and Crypt Rats if we need to board wipe a little bit sooner. So I'm quite happy keeping this. I just wish it was a little bit faster. Turns out our opponent is playing Forest into Nettle Sentinel, very likely a Stompy list, so we want to get our board wipes online as soon as possible. We'd prefer not to get run over. Thankfully, our opponent doesn't have a Burning Tree Emissary on the second turn. That might have been enough to run us over. Just seeing a Nest Invader means they're likely on a bit of a slower hand, and that gives us good winning chances. I go ahead and play the Scour Baron here, just because I'd like to be able to cycle the Ash Barons at the end of the turn, just to give us the option of playing an untapped land, and playing the Crypt Rat on the next turn. Basically, we want to try and get that board wipe online as soon as possible. They do have an Elephant Guide on the Nettle Sentinel, which is a little unfortunate for us, but basically there's not much we can do about it. We're just going to take our beats for now and hope we are able to stabilize. So here, let me just quickly pause. There we go. So drawing the Thraben Inspector is actually really good for us. Basically, what I realized right here is we do want to wipe as much of the board as possible, but we also want to make sure we're playing around anything we can. We can't just use the Crypt Rats right away, because if we did, then there would be basically just this big Nettle Sentinel that would beat us and kill us, since we would be taking some damage from the Crypt Rats. We could Crypt Rats to kill most of the board and play the Thraben Inspector, but then you would have this young wolf after the fact. That's also not a very good plan. So, being able to go this way means that we're going to be able to block both the Nettle Sentinel with the Crypt Rat and the Nest Invader with the Thraben Inspector and activate the Crypt Rat for 1, killing most of the board and taking no damage for that turn other than the one from the Crypt Rats. So I realize that's our best plan for victory. That way we don't have to worry about trying to chump block the Nettle Sentinel with nothing coming up, and the wolf can't actually get in for a bit of damage. The one thing this does lose to, actually it doesn't even lose to that. Since we're able to hold up 2 black mana, I was thinking possibly if they had a Vines of the Vastwood, they'd be able to protect their creature after the fact. And that was the other reason why I went with this line, because I can activate it for 1, it would kill the Quarian Ranger and the Young Wolf, and if they try and buff it anyway, I can just do it again. So this gives us the best chances for surviving this round, not necessarily winning the game. But we just got to take this one turn at a time and hope the top of our deck is kind to us. They go ahead and make those attacks. That makes me think that they don't have some kind of Vines of the Vastwood shenanigans. But we're just going to go ahead and crack that for 1. There was the chance that they had a Hunger the Howl Pact to put in the Nest Invaders, but there wasn't much way for us to play around that if we wanted to guarantee ourselves living that turn. They're playing some additional creatures. That's to be expected. But here things don't look... well, playing the Nest Invader makes things pretty bad, and it turns out we drew the perfect card. I remember thinking, drawing our card, that we really needed a Prismatic Strands as our best chance of winning this, and then we ended up drawing 1, and not only that, when we cracked our clue, we drew a second one. That is absolutely perfect for what we're trying to do. It basically means we get to fog this turn, play our Guardian of the Guild Pack, flash it back after eating a creature, and then we can play another Prismatic Strands, get the Pestilence online while flashing it back, and eventually wipe their entire board. So that is the game plan we're going for now, and we're just hoping that they attack with as many creatures as possible to try and basically get our Guardian value with Prismatic Strands. So they end up swinging with everything. That's to be expected. We're going to get rid of the Quarian Ranger just to reduce the amount of mana they have and their easy ability to untap their Nettle Sentinel, since we were going to be taking no damage that turn anyway. They end up playing another Quarian Ranger, so that didn't really work out. That's fine. So this turn, we basically need to play our Prismatic Strands to make sure we're staying alive. There's always the option of going the risky plan, of just playing the Pestilence down, hoping to survive, but I'd rather take the more guaranteed route of playing the Prismatic Strands. We also wanted to get more of our black sources online, which is why we played the bounce land there. We're able to kill another creature, cash in our Pestilence, and yeah, now this turn we get to play our Pestilence. We have 2 black sources, now well 3 with that. What this will allow us to do is basically pop the black sources one at a time, and they will need to have multiple effects to try and keep their creatures alive. This also allows us to go ahead and block the Nettle Sentinel, and over the course of the turn we'll be doing 3 damage to it. So we crack it once, kill a creature. This one would kill the other 2 creatures. When they try and vines, we go ahead and crack another one. And if anything had gone terribly wrong there, we do have the Prismatic Strands in the graveyard to keep ourselves alive, which is why we don't mind making a slightly risky play of trying to kill all the creatures. But the play ends up working out, and we're able to wipe out everything, and they get the 1 elephant left over, which our Guardian easily deals with. We can also wipe it out at any time with Pestilence. We're not in any rush to kill it with Pestilence, since our life total is rather low. And we do have a Prismatic Strands in the graveyard as well. Our hand isn't looking that great with all these lands, but since we have our combo online, it doesn't even really matter what we draw. As long as we draw something, we end up drawing a Lone Missionary, which allows us to gain a little bit of additional life. And our opponent realizes that there isn't really much they're going to be able to do against this board state, since we can kill all their creatures, and we have a pro basically everything in their deck creature here. So they go ahead and concede, and we're going to jump into game 2. As for sideboarding, I do not like to have Palace Sentinels in a deck where they like to go really wide. Basically, it is really good if you're ahead and you get to stay ahead, but if they are a little bit ahead, especially games like this one, basically you're just handing them the Monarchy, and we'd rather not do that. We bring in the additional Doomblades. We just would like additional ways of killing their creatures. And then we also bring in the 2 Coalition Honor Guard. Basically, if you can resolve one of these and they don't have a Rancored creature, this completely shuts down their entire deck and they have no way of removing it. So in decks, like I would recommend if you're playing white to have some sort of that effect in your deck somewhere, whether the Standard Bearer or the Coalition Honor Guard. Since our deck already has quite a bit of early interaction and a lot of life gain, we don't mind playing a 4-drop that shuts down the rest of their deck, because then we're able to kill the couple creatures that got through and got buffed. In that place, we also brought out the Knight's Whisper. Basically, I don't want to be taking a turn off to draw additional cards and lose life on our own time, so even though it does kind of make things a little bit weaker in the late game or consistency, I would rather be forced to take an additional mulligan if necessary, just to make sure I have a proactive early hand that can do stuff early and often. So with the sideboarding out of the way, we're going to take a look at our opening hand. This is a very reasonable keep. We've got 3 lands, we've got multiple interaction, we've got life gain, and a Guardian, so we're very happy to keep this. Them dropping a Quarian Ranger right off the bat makes me think they might have mana issues, so I go ahead and disfigure it right away. They end up not having a 2-drop, which I find really odd. They play a Nest Invader, that's fine. And we're going to go ahead and cycle our Ash Barrens. Since we have multiple white creatures, there is the option of getting another white, but as you'll probably see, I very often tend towards getting more black, just to make sure we have as much black as possible for Crypt Rats and Pestilence. Trying to remove a creature, they end up having the vines, that's fine, we don't mind. That's 4 damage we don't have to worry about taking later, and we don't have to play around it. It was very likely that they're going to have some kind of that effect, since they did play a creature as a 2-drop, and that basically means that they were trying to hold up vines after playing their 2-drop. They're attacking with multiple creatures here. We're just going to cash in our Prismatic Strands to gain us 6 life, and now it's in the graveyard for free for the rest of the game. So, not drawing a 4th land there is a little unfortunate. It would have been really nice to resolve the Guardian. Having the Coalition Honor Guard is awesome. As long as we can get that onto the board at some point, we're basically going to win the game. Although they're going to make it as tough as possible. They're going to play Double Howl the Hunger Pack at the end of our turn. So we are on a bit of a clock, but we do have 1 Fog effect with the Prismatic Strands in the graveyard. Playing the Planetary Emissary now is not that big of an issue. They may or may not have a follow-up, but we're not too concerned about that. And our Lone Missionary can trade with the Planetary Emissary if we need to. Since we are trying to reduce the amount of damage we're taking as much as possible, I go ahead and use the Doomblade on the 1 Nest Invader. It ends up sticking, and then they're starting to get in for a bit of damage. Here I go ahead and make the blocks, and I'm going to cash in the prismatic strands just to keep our lone missionary around and get a free kill on one of their creatures. We do want to try and preserve our life total as much as possible. And now they're trying to Rancor their Eldrazi spawn. I don't think that was the best option for them here. I do think they should have put that on the Nest Invader, since that would have been able to get more damage. But I can understand that they're trying to play around Prismatic Strands. I'm going to cash in the Prismatic Strands here. The reason why is I want to be able to get 5 power on the board to kill the Nest Invaders when he attacks. And that means I do need the Graven Inspector. So now I'm just going to get the other Lone Missionary onto the board. Now I've got 5 power to deal with the Nest Invader. And I finally drew an additional land, so now I can start playing Coalition Honor Guards and Guardian of the Guild packs next turn. That is exactly what we're looking for. The Rancor on the Pit Skulk is unfortunate. That means that they're able to get through for some unblockable damage. When they realize that we could kill their Nest Invaders, they don't attack with it, but I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the Eldrazi spawn, knowing that we can play another 4-drop this turn. Getting our Coalition Honor Guard here is exactly what we need, because we know we need to get that Pit Skulk off the board. And this will allow us to play the Crypt Rats and deal with all of their creatures, and they won't be able to play the Rancors again. Here, they only attack with the Pit Skulk. We do need to cash in our Crypt Rats. We're going to be going down to 2 life, but that's fine. Oh, here is an important moment that I'm going to quickly point out. Something that if you play Crypt Rats that you can do is you can hold priority, and so he has a Young Wolf. So first thing you do is while holding control, you click on your Crypt Rat, you pay 2, so that goes on the stack first, and then you go and click on your Crypt Rat again, paying 1 mana. So then 1 damage goes onto the stack second. When they resolve, the 1 damage gets resolved first, killing the Young Wolf, and then the 2 damage you put on the stack previously will then kill the second part of the Young Wolf. So even though this is going to put us down to 1, it's going to remove all of their creatures minus the Nest Invaders, and they will not be able to play both of their Rancors again since we have the Coalition Honor Guard. And next turn we're going to be resolving a Guardian of the Guild pack to blank the Nest Invaders. So even if they do play 1 additional creature, we can do that. We've got 2 blockers. Yeah. And we also have a Prismatic Strands as absolute backup if we need to. So basically, this was just cashing in 1 extra damage just to remove 1 extra creature off the board, and I just thought I'd bring attention to that because it is a very important thing that you can do, being able to stack multiple instances of Crypt Rat damage to deal with undying creatures and the like. Alright, so now that that's out of the way, we're going to carry on. Turns out they do have a Aquarian Ranger, that's fine. We're just going to go ahead and play the Guardian as we had intended. We also managed to get a Chorus Skyfisher, which allows us to bounce the Scoured Barrens, getting more additional life, and we do want to get as many creatures down on the board as possible just to make sure we're blanking all of their attacks. Since they do have a Nest Invader that is a 5/5, they do have the possibility of drawing a fight effect that would be able to kill our Honor Guard, but we do have the Prismatic Strands to keep it safe. Thankfully, we do have the Chorus Skyfisher to deal with the Ledgewalker already, otherwise that would have been able to chip in for some damage. And now that we drew the Aven Rift Watcher, we're feeling good enough to get in for a bit of damage, since we still have a way of blocking it. And we would like to close out this game at some point. They're going to continue to play creatures. We don't really mind. There isn't much that they can really do with them at this point. Here we're going to be able to attack with both of our flyers, because we're going to be able to reset our Aven Rift Watcher just to gain an additional 4 life, and then have 2 flying blockers back, and we'll have 4 blockers total to deal with all of their creatures. And at this point, things are looking pretty good. We've got 6 power in the air, 2 unblockable, and the Honor Guard. So we can take this as conservatively as we like and chip in for a bit of damage and win in basically 2 turns. And they realize that and are conceding here. So that is the end of round 3, and I'll see you in round 4.